Hey everyone, thanks for joining the Unveiled family. We're almost halfway to our goal, and it's all thanks to you. If you haven't yet, please smash that subscribe button so that we can hit 1,000 subs together. Let's do this. I matched with this guy named Ethan on a Thursday night while sitting in the back of a bus that reeked of damp coats and old fries. I was coming home from class, totally fried from a group project that went nowhere, and just kind of swiping out of boredom. He had a decent smile, bit lopsided, and this quiet kind of look. His bio said he liked true crime podcasts, diners, and watching bad movies until 3 a.m. It wasn't anything special, but it was normal enough to feel safe, which honestly should have been my first red flag. Normal's a tricky mask. We started talking that night. It was chill. He asked about my favorite horror movie, told me his was this weird low budget, one I'd never heard of. Nothing flirty, just kind of slow. We texted on and off for a couple days, and he asked if I wanted to meet up. I said sure, and we agreed to grab a drink at this bar near an old bowling alley in my part of town. Kind of a weird spot for a first meet, but I liked that. Felt different from the usual sterile wine bars, so Saturday night rolls around and I get there first. The bar's this half-dead place with flickering yellow lights and a jukebox that mostly plays old country songs no one knows. There's the smell of cheap cleaner and sticky beer and something else, like burnt sugar. The kind of place that's always either about to close or never will. He walks in maybe 10 minutes after I sit down. Tall, gray jacket, dark jeans, same face as the photos, but something's off. Not how he looks, more like how he walks, like he knows the room already, like he's done this before. I remember thinking it was weird how he didn't look around for me. He walked straight up like he already knew exactly where I was sitting. Like he knew more than he should. We talked for a bit. It wasn't awkward, but it wasn't smooth either. I couldn't place it at first. Just this heavy sort of wrong feeling. Like standing in a hallway you've walked 1,000 times, but the lights are off and the walls are a little too close. He asked me the same questions we already went over in texts. Like he was trying to get me to say something different. Or maybe like he wanted to hear it out loud. I thought maybe he was nervous. The bartender came by and he ordered for both of us. That annoyed me. He didn't even ask what I wanted. Just said to gin and tonics and gave me this weird smile, like he knew I wouldn't say anything. And I didn't. I should've. But I didn't sync up quotes too. Halfway through the drink is when it hit me. Not the drink, the face. He laughed at something I said and tilted his head a little and smiled. With just his left cheek, and it was like a trapdoor opened in my brain. That smile, I'd seen it before. His name wasn't Ethan. Not even close. His name was Derek. We dated when I was 19. Nothing too serious, but it ended bad. Not explosive, just wrong. There was something in him I couldn't see clearly back then, but it felt like mold behind a wall. Quiet, dark, growing. We broke up after he went through my phone one night while I was asleep and confronted me. About some guy who liked one of my pictures from 6 months ago. Said I was trying to humiliate him. Cried on my porch for 2 hours. Wouldn't leave until my roommate threatened to call the cops. I hadn't seen him since. Until now, everything inside me started ringing. I couldn't believe it at first. I kept looking at his face, trying to find a way it could be a coincidence. But it wasn't. Same scar by the eyebrow. Same little vein near his temple that twitched when he got worked up. And the voice, I didn't recognize it right away, because he was talking softer now. Slower, but once I heard it, I couldn't unhear it. He changed his name. Made a new profile. He tracked me down. I froze. I didn't know what to say. Didn't even know if I should let on that I knew. My heart was pounding, but I kept nodding like I was still listening to him talk about some job he probably didn't even have. All I could think was I needed to leave. But then the room started to wobble. Not spin, not fast, just shift. Like a camera on a broken tripod. I blinked hard, and the lights stretched a little too long, and everything got muffled, like someone stuffed cotton in my ears. I remember gripping the edge of the table and trying to stand up, but my legs felt like jelly. I slurred something. Probably asked to go to the bathroom. He stood up with me, fast. Too fast. Held my elbow and smiled that same smile. Said something about the door. I remember him guiding me. Not rough, not gentle. Like he was helping me after a fall, but didn't actually care if I got up. I don't know what happened between then and outside. It's patchy. I remember cold air. The smell of wet pavement. Someone laughing in the distance. I remember trying to speak and my mouth not working right. And then I was on the ground. Not in an alley, not in a basement. Just outside, near the dumpster behind the bar. Some guy in a red hoodie was standing over me, asking if I was okay. He looked freaked out. I couldn't answer, just blinked. Eventually he called someone. Ambulance came. Lights were too bright. People were talking, but everything sounded like a TV in the next room. They said later there was something in my system. Something strong. Not alcohol, not weed. Something heavier. Nothing deadly, but enough to mess you up for a while. They asked if I remembered anything, and I told them. Not everything, but enough. I showed them the profile. They couldn't find it. It was gone by morning. Like it never existed, but I know it was him. I never saw him again. Didn't hear from him. Nothing. Sometimes I wonder if he's still out there, using a different name, a different face. Waiting for someone else to swipe right on something that looks safe. I deleted the app the next day. Haven't been back since. And I never go near that bar anymore. Not because of what happened. Because of what almost did. I met Sandra on a rainy Tuesday when the trains were delayed and I'd already eaten 2 gas station hot dogs for lunch. I was swiping while leaning against a vending machine in my building's lobby, halfway thinking about going back to work. And halfway hoping the power would just go out so I could leave early. Her profile popped up and it didn't look like the usual overfiltered beach travel, astrology core kind of thing. Her pictures were kinda casual. One at a dog park. One in a parking garage holding a milkshake. She looked normal. Which honestly made me stop. We matched that afternoon and started talking right away. She was into dumb stuff like ranking potato chip brands and arguing about if cereal is soup. It wasn't deep or anything, but it was easy. We messaged back and forth that whole week, and by the weekend we were already planning to meet. I wasn't even thinking long term, just wanted something light. Maybe someone to grab food with and not have to explain why I don't text back right away. First couple of dates were decent. We met at this rooftop taco spot near the river. She talked a lot, but not in a bad way. Just always had stories. Family drama. Weird neighbors. A guy in her building who apparently faked sleepwalking. I liked listening more than talking anyway. She laughed a lot, which made it easier to relax. She made it feel like I'd known her longer than I did. We hung out a few more times after that. She'd come over, we'd watch dumb movies sometimes. Go for late walks, just to talk trash about other people's patio furniture. Nothing serious, but it felt comfortable. Like we had a rhythm. I didn't introduce her to anyone though. Not because I was hiding her or anything. I just wasn't sure if it was gonna stick. Something about her was just a little much. She texted constantly. Like full paragraphs at 2 a.m. about how she remembered something I said 3 days ago and what that might mean. I'd wake up to 7 missed messages, and she'd apologize in advance for the next one. After about 2 weeks, I started pulling back. Not ghosting, just slowing it down. I told her I didn't think we were on the same page. She said she understood, but then sent me a video of herself crying the next night. Like actual tears, full on, in her bathroom. I didn't even reply to that one. I thought maybe that'd be the end of it. It WASN single quotes. The weird thing was, she never blocked me. Never blew up my phone after that or sent me threats. It just got quiet. She stopped posting, stopped liking my stuff. She disappeared in this very intentional way, like she wanted me to feel it. And for a while I didn't. I got back to work, started focusing on this big pitch we had coming up. I was gunning for a promotion, something I'd been working toward for nearly a year. This presentation was a big deal. I was running point on the whole thing. My boss even told me to bring my agami, because some high-ups were flying in from the Chicago office just to sit in. Presentation day comes, and I'm in the conference room wearing this tight collar shirt that makes my neck itch, running through. Slides on the projector like I'm back in college trying to impress a TA. I've got all the managers in the room. Even the regional guy, big dude with a mustache and the driest voice you've ever heard. We're about 15 minutes in. I'm actually crushing it. Numbers look good, everyone's nodding. My boss gives me this small smile that says keep going, and then it happens. Someone pushes open the conference room door. Not a knock, not a peek in, just barges in, loud, like they've been waiting for the perfect moment. And there she is, Sandra, wearing a hoodie and leggings like she just came from yoga, holding a giant metal water bottle. One of those ones that keeps water cold for like 30 hours. The kind you could probably knock someone out with. She doesn't say a word. Not to anyone. Doesn't even look confused to be there. She walks right up to where I'm standing at, the head of the table, and throws the entire bottle of water on me. Not a splash, not a little pour, the whole thing. Full blast, cold as hell. I'm soaked, my laptop's soaked. The projector flickers and goes black. For a second, no one moves. It's so quiet you can hear the air vent buzzing. And then she just walks out. Doesn't yell, doesn't cry, doesn't explain anything. Just walks back out into the hallway like she was dropping off mail. Everyone's looking at me like I just got hit by a meteor. Someone tries to laugh. Someone else coughs. My boss stands up and says we'll take a 5-minute break, and people start shuffling out like they don't want to catch whatever disease I've clearly brought into the building. I spent the next hour trying to play it off like some weird prank from a friend, but the vibe was already ruined. The pitch felt rushed, off, scrambled. I kept thinking about how she even got in, how she knew where the meeting was, how she knew the exact time. Long story short, I didn't get the promotion. My boss told me I handled it well, but that they had to go with someone who made a stronger final impression. Basically, code for you got soaked on stage, and everyone remembers that now. I tried to report it, but nothing really stuck. Security checked the footage and said she must have tailgated someone through the side entrance. She was gone before anyone could stop her. No one pressed charges because technically it was just water. Nothing violent, nothing dangerous. Just weird. They told me to be more careful about who I date. I blocked her on everything after that. Deleted the app. Told my coworkers it was an ex who didn't take things well. And tried to laugh it off like it was just one of those stories. But sometimes, when I'm sitting in that same conference room and the projector hums to life, I swear I can still feel that cold water creeping down my back. The first time I saw Grayson's profile, I wasn't even really paying attention. I was lying in bed, scrolling half out of boredom, half out of habit. You know how it is. His pictures weren't anything special. One of them hiking, one of them holding a beer at a baseball game, and then a mirror selfie that was a little too filtered but still passable. What made me stop was his bio. Short, just said I make good playlists, bad decisions, and better pancakes. It was dumb, but I chuckled. Sometimes that's enough. We matched right away. He messaged first, something about a song I mentioned in my bio, and from there we just kind of kept going. He had this way of texting where it felt like you were already joking with a friend. No cheesy pickup lines or weird emojis, just actual sentences, which is rare these days. We talked about music, movies, and our mutual hatred for those tiny shopping carts and grocery stores that never roll straight. I liked him. Not in a butterflies and heart ties kind of way, but enough to say yes when he asked to grab drinks later that week. We decided to meet at this place, called Violet's. Kind of a weird name for a bar, but it was cozy. Like half bar, half diner. With booths that had those little flickering candles and cheap menus that stuck to the table a bit. It wasn't downtown, not too busy. Just tucked in a part of the city where nobody really walks unless they live nearby. He picked it. Said the fries were good, and the drinks were cheap. Which sounded like a win. When I got there, he was already at the booth. Wore a black hoodie and these scuffed white sneakers. Stood up to hug me like we'd met before, like we weren't strangers. He smelled like mint, and something else. Maybe cologne, maybe detergent. Either way, it wasn't bad. He had this lazy kind of charm, like he wasn't trying too hard, but he still made you lean in when he talked. We ordered food and a couple drinks. Talked for a while about random stuff. He worked in IT at a place that sounded boring, but paid. Well, he used to play drums but sold his set during COVID. His last relationship ended because, in his words, she turned into a roommate. He said it casually, like it didn't matter, but the way he looked at his glass when he said it made me think it still did. Everything felt fine. Not amazing, but fine. Like one of those dates where you're not sure if you'd go on a second one, but you don't regret showing up either. He made me laugh a couple times, which honestly is more than I can say for half the dates I've been on. After about an hour and a half, I told him I was gonna run to the bathroom. It wasn't even far, just around the corner near the kitchen. Through one of those swinging doors. I was gone maybe 5 minutes, tops. No line, no weird mirror selfies. Just did what I had to do and headed back. And that's when it got weird. I come out of the bathroom and peek into the dining area. And there he is. Grayson, sitting in the same booth. Leaning forward across the table, smiling in a way he hadn't smiled at me all night. And across from him, the waitress. She wasn't even pretending to work. She was sitting. Full on sitting in the booth like she'd clocked out. She was laughing. Twirling her pen, playing with the straw in her drink. Yeah, she had a drink. Not water. Something with a slice of lime and ice cubes. And he was talking low, grinning, like he was trying to be smooth. Same guy, different tone. He didn't see me at first. I stood there, weirdly frozen, just watching them for a second. Not because I was jealous. It wasn't that. It was something else. Something off. Like this was who he really was, and I'd just been sitting through the trailer. Then he looked up and saw me. And he didn't flinch. He didn't jump up or try to explain. He just smiled, like, oh hey, you're back. Like I was the one who interrupted something. The waitress glanced at me, stood up fast, and mumbled something before heading toward the kitchen. He acted like nothing happened. Made a dumb comment. About how he was just chatting while I was gone. But his face said something different. Smug. Like he didn't care if I saw. Like he wanted me to. I sat down, but it was already done. I couldn't unsee it. I stared at my drink, trying to figure out if I was overreacting, if maybe it really was nothing. But the pit in my stomach said otherwise. I told him I had to get going, made up some excuse about my friend needing help with a flat tire. He didn't argue, just nodded, said it was cool, and that we should do it again sometime. I walked out of that bar and blocked him before I even got to my car. But it didn't end there. A couple days later, I get a DM on Instagram. Not from him. From the waitress. She found my profile, because he apparently followed me after our date, and liked a bunch of my photos. She messaged me out of nowhere. Told me she thought he was cute at first, but that he came back to Violet's the next night, alone, and asked for her number. She said he sat in the same booth, ordered the same drink, and waited until our shift ended. She gave him a fake number. He came back again 2 days later and asked why she hadn't replied. Told her he deserved a chance. She quit the week after that. I don't know what kind of game he was playing, or if that's just what he does. Picks girls off dating apps, charms them just enough, then moves on like it's a sport. The way he looked at me when I caught him flirting. It wasn't embarrassed or caught off guard. It was almost proud. Sometimes I wonder how many people he's done that to. How many girls think they're on a regular date, while he's already lining up the next one 10 feet away. I deleted the app for a while after that, not because I was scared, just tired. Tired of pretending every guy is worth the time. Grayson wasn't scary in the horror movie kind of way. He was worse. He was boring, scary, regular scary. The kind you almost ignore because it's so easy to miss. And that's the kind you gotta watch out for. When I first matched with Gigi, I wasn't even looking for anything serious. Just bored, swiping at work during lunch, eating cold pasta out of a plastic container. Her pictures weren't overly filtered or weird, mostly mirror selfies. One on a couch holding a wine glass. One of her in the back seat of a car with a blurry skyline behind her. She looked chill. Her bio just said something like, "I like people who know where the good dumplings are." I had no idea where good dumplings were, but I swiped right anyway. She messaged first, which barely ever happens. It was something dumb. Like, what's the most underrated color? And somehow that turned into a full conversation about neon green and how yellow gets too much hate. We talked pretty much nonstop for a few days. She was funny, kinda weird, but in a way that made things interesting. She'd disappear for a few hours here and there, and then come back with some random story. About her neighbor's cat, or a guy at the gas station who tried to sell her homemade candles. We met up the next week at this low-key bar that had more dust than customers. I figured it'd be quiet and cheap. It was. She showed up late, said her Uber driver took a weird turn and made her uncomfortable. I didn't think much of it. She looked like her pictures. Oversized hoodie, messy bun, chipped nails. The kind of girl who probably had a cool playlist and slept till noon. The night was fine. She didn't ask a lot of questions about me. Mostly just talked. Stories that felt slightly off, but not impossible. Like how she used to live in Vegas for a bit, and accidentally worked as a DJ assistant. I didn't press. People exaggerate sometimes. We ended up hanging out more after that. She came over a couple times. Never wanted to stay long. Always said she had things to take care of. One time I asked what kind of things, and she just laughed and changed the subject. After about 2 weeks, stuff started to feel weird, not dramatic. Just off, she texted me one night, asking if I had any friends who were into crypto stuff. I said not really, and she didn't reply for a day. Then she started talking about needing help with money. Not in a begging way, more like casual hints, like how she just needed a few hundred to clear something up, or how her account kept getting flagged and she was getting fees for dumb reasons. I didn't send her anything at first. I'm not dumb. I told her I couldn't help, and she backed off. But then she started doing this thing where she'd disappear for a few days, then come back all dramatic. Said someone followed her home. Another time she said someone keyed her car. Then one night she called me crying. Said she owed someone money and they were serious about it. She didn't say who or why, just said it was complicated and temporary. She begged me to loan her $300. I almost said no, but something about the way she said it made me cave. I Venmo'd it to her and she promised she'd pay me back that weekend. She didn't. She ghosted me the next morning. No texts, no socials, profile gone, blocked, or deleted. I don't even know. I figured all right, lesson learned. Dumb move on my part. Write it off and keep moving. Then it got worse. About a week after she vanished, I'm at my apartment, and there's a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. So I looked through the little side window and saw two guys I didn't recognize, both wearing black hoodies. One of them had a small notepad. Nothing too chilling, but weird enough that I didn't open the door. I just said through the door that they had the wrong apartment. The one with the notepad said my full name. I froze for a second. I didn't say anything back, just kept staring through the gap. Then the second guy said they just wanted to talk about Gigi, that she left them hanging, that she mentioned me as someone who owed her something. I didn't respond. After a minute, they left. Just walked off down the stairs like it wasn't a big deal. I didn't sleep that night. I called my friend who worked at the local courthouse. Asked what the hell to do if people show up like that. He told me unless they break in or threaten me directly, there's not much anyone can do. I figured that would be the end of it. Some weird guys, bad connection, whatever. Wrong again. 2 days later, someone keyed my car. Not deep, but enough to be obvious. Just a long line from the front door to the back wheel. Then someone slipped a note under my door. Not typed, written. Said you can pay what she owes, or you can deal with the problem. No name, no number, just that. I freaked. I stayed at my brother's place for the weekend. Parked my car at his work lot. Told my landlord I was thinking of moving out soon. Didn't give details. Just said I needed something more secure. I never saw Gigi again. Never heard from her. Never found her socials. Like she vanished. No mutuals to ask. No real last name. Just Gigi. The guys stopped showing up eventually. Maybe they found someone else to bother. Or maybe they got what they needed from someone else. I still don't know what she owed them, or why she thought dropping my name would help. I wonder if she did it to others too. Passed them off like decoys. Like human shields, that I never got the money back. Not that it matters. After that, I deleted Tinder. Deleted everything really. Started using cash only. Stopped trusting people with full names that sound too short, too easy. Gigi probably wasn't even her name. People think dating apps are dangerous because of stalkers or creeps. But it's worse when someone uses you like you're disposable. When you're just a fake contact in someone else's lie. And the worst part is, she was good at it. Too good. I don't usually go out with guys who put their jobs front and center on dating apps. If a guy's whole thing is CEO of my own hustle or restaurant owner, DM for reservations, I usually just swipe left. But Tony was different. Not better. Just different. His profile didn't scream entrepreneur. It was more chill. A pic of him holding a big bowl of pasta with a dumb grin on his face. One selfie at a food truck, and a video where he was cooking something and burning it by accident. His bio said I run a restaurant, but I promise I'm not annoying about it. So I matched with him. I figured, okay, at least he's not a gym bro trying to get me to buy protein powder. We talked for a couple days. Mostly about food, which I expected. He sent me pictures of weird snacks from other countries. Told me he was into ramen and late-night tacos. And dropped his Spotify cooking playlist like that was a thing people asked for. I didn't mind it. He had a way of texting that felt real. Not polished, not trying too hard. So when he asked if I wanted to come eat at his place, like the restaurant he owned, I was like sure. It felt kind of cool. Different from the usual meet-me-at-this-loud-bar energy. Plus free dinner. Hell yeah. His restaurant was downtown, tucked between a vape shop and a hair salon with a flickering sign. I remember it was raining a little that night, and the whole street smelled like wet pavement and french fries. The place was called Sal's, but I'm pretty sure there was no Sal. Just Tony. He met me at the front door, wearing a white button-down that was half untucked and stained with something dark, probably sauce. He looked stressed, but smiled when he saw me. Not in a flirty way, more like, Thank God someone normal just walked in. He told the host. Or maybe it was just a server pretending to host to seat me in the corner booth near the window. I figured we'd sit together, but he said he had to finish a couple things in the back and then he'd join me. I said okay and ordered a drink. Nothing wild, just a soda. Didn't want to get tipsy in case this turned weird. And oh boy, it did. Within like 5 minutes of sitting down, I started hearing him. Not talking. Yelling at first. I thought he was just raising his voice. You know, kitchen's loud. Maybe they messed something up. But then it kept going. And louder. And way more intense. Like full-on yelling. Names. Insults. Orders barked like it was the military or something. I couldn't see into the kitchen. But the sounds were clear. Pans clanging. Someone apologizing. Him snapping back louder. It was awkward. The table next to me glanced over like, what the hell is going on back there? 10 minutes in, my server came back to check on me and I could tell she was on edge. Her hands were kinda shaky when she put the plate down, and she wouldn't make eye contact. I asked if everything was okay and she just smiled, that weird type smile that says, please don't ask me anything else. Tony finally came out about 20 minutes after I got there. Sat down across from me looking sweaty and out of breath. He had a towel over his shoulder like he was in a movie. He tried to play it off. Asked if I liked the food, said he made the sauce himself, and talked about how hard it was to run a place when nobody takes pride in anything anymore. I kinda nodded along, trying to be polite, but the energy was weird. I felt like I was in a fight I didn't know started. Then a server came over to ask about a mix-up with table 6 or something, and Tony just exploded. Right there, in front of me. Slammed his palm on the table, made the girl jump, and started snapping about how she couldn't get a single thing right. I just froze. She looked like she was gonna cry. And then, mid-rant, he turned to me and snapped something like, can you believe this? But it came out like he was yelling at me too. I flinched, not on purpose. It just happened. The tone, the volume, it caught me off guard. He noticed and pulled back real fast. Said sorry. Mumbled something about being under pressure. Tried to joke that he gets a little dramatic when the place is busy. But the damage was done. The vibe had crashed straight into the floor. I told him I had a thing early in the morning and needed to head out soon. He offered dessert. I said no. He said he'd walk me out. I said I was good. He looked annoyed, but not surprised. Like maybe this wasn't the first time he'd ruined a date in his own restaurant. On the way out, I passed by the girl he'd yelled at. Her hands were in the dish tub, scrubbing a glass like it owed her money. I wanted to say something, like, are you okay? Or does he always do that? But she avoided my eyes completely. I blocked him the next day. Didn't even wait. I didn't want to deal with some long apology or excuses about passion and stress and all that crap. Owning a restaurant doesn't give you the right to treat people like they're garbage. And it definitely doesn't mean you get to snap at someone who came to spend time with you. The food wasn't even that good, honestly. Cold noodles, soggy bread. Not worth the weird yelling dinner theater. I still think about that girl sometimes. The server. Wonder if she quit. Or if she still hears his voice in her head when she drops a plate. Maybe she's working somewhere else now. Maybe Tony's still in that back kitchen, yelling at the next unlucky girl who swiped right. Anyway. I don't do dinner dates anymore. Not unless it's tacos in a parking lot or something I can walk away from without hearing someone scream. I remember because I was sitting on my floor eating leftover chips from a bag that had been open too long, and I was swiping just to pass time. I wasn't even expecting anything decent to pop up. I'd hit that point where everyone either looked like they wanted to sell protein powder, or were clearly catfishing with blurry beach pics and one-word bios, like adventure. Then Laura showed up. Her profile was weirdly perfect. Like, not in a suspicious way at first. She just ticked every box. Loved retro games. Said she hated small talk. Was into hiking but not in a look at me on a cliff in yoga pants kind of way. She mentioned liking peanut butter M&Ms over the regular ones, which was something I literally argued with my friends about 2 nights before. Her pictures were chill. Just her and her dog. One mirror selfie with no filters. Something about the whole vibe felt solid. Natural. Not like the usual weird energy you get from someone trying to be too cool. So I matched. Messaged her. She replied instantly. For the next 3 days, we talked nonstop. Not just texting. Voice. Notes. Late night convos. About dumb childhood memories. She somehow brought up an obscure cartoon I watched growing up that no one ever remembers. We joked about people who don't return shopping carts. She said she once faked a faint just to get out of a school presentation. I told her I used to fake nosebleeds to skip gym class. It felt like I'd known her for months. Everything she said lined up with my humor, my interests, even my habits. Like she'd been observing my brain for a while and just knew what parts to tap into. We planned to meet on Saturday. Casual, a walk at this small lake near my neighborhood, with coffee after. She didn't want anything fancy, and neither did I. Saturday came, and I got to the lake first. It was cold, but not miserable. A little cloudy. I waited near the bench at the front where we said we'd meet. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. I was just starting to think she bailed when she showed up. She looked exactly like her photos. Same hoodie, same hair, same casual posture, like she didn't care too much but also somehow looked put together. She smiled when she saw me. Like really smiled, and I relaxed. Said something dumb about the weather. She laughed. We walked for about an hour. Everything flowed, just like it did in messages. Every joke landed. Every story I told, she had some perfect follow-up or response. Even the timing of her silences felt synced. I thought maybe I was overthinking it, but it was like hanging out with a version of me that wasn't awkward and actually liked me back. After coffee, I asked if she wanted to hang again soon. She nodded, said yeah, and then said she had to meet a friend. I walked her to her car, and that was it. Later that night, I was telling my friend Ethan about her. We game together almost every weekend, and usually talk about how weird dating apps are. I told him everything. How perfect the convo was. How she liked all the same stuff. How the whole thing felt borderline unreal. He laughed, like hard. Then he told me to open Discord. He screen shared something. Turns out, him and 2 of my other friends made a fake Tinder account. They'd been joking around one night, talking about how predictable I was with the type of people I matched with. Ethan thought it'd be funny to use AI to build a dream profile that would match with me 100%. Not just looks, but personality, interests, typing style, the whole thing. They used some chatbot to simulate convo, based on stuff I'd told them over the years. They fed it my texts, my Reddit posts, even my Spotify Wrapped. They wrote a prompt like talk like someone who would get along with this dude, and the bot handled the rest. They trained it with little edits each time I responded, trying to make it smoother. They even used one of their coworkers' cousin's photos. A girl who lives 3 cities away, and had no idea she was being used. And I was the test. Subject: Lara wasn't real. She wasn't real. That voice note where she laughed and told me about the fainting thing, AI. That whole long rant about people who eat pizza with forks, generated, those obscure references and niche jokes, fed into the system by people who knew me too well. I didn't say much on the call. Just laughed a little, said it was wild, then logged off. I sat there in the dark, staring at our last message thread, reading back stuff that now felt creepy, like stuff she said that made me feel known, seen, connected. It was literally built to make me feel that way. They didn't mean to mess with me that hard. They thought it'd crash and burn early on. But it didn't. It went too well. I didn't really talk to them for a bit after that. Blocked the Lara profile, obviously. Deleted the app altogether. Even now, I flinch when someone brings up AI. Not in a paranoid way. Just, like I remember how real it felt. How easy it was to fall into it. How badly I wanted it to be true. Even if deep down, something felt slightly too perfect. It was like dating a mirror. Except the mirror was built by your friends to laugh at you later. They eventually apologized. Said they didn't mean to take it that far. But by then, I was over it. Lara, single quotes, as not a real name anymore in my head. It's a folder, a code. A fake person built out of real data and a messed up idea of a prank. And the worst part, I still kinda miss her. I matched with Gary on a Friday, and honestly, it wasn't supposed to be a huge thing. I was scrolling through Tinder, looking for, I don't know, someone to maybe grab coffee with. His first picture was him standing in front of the Airbnb. Owned, with a bag slung over his shoulder and a dumb grin on his face. I thought it was sweet, showed he cared enough to come see me where I lived. He mentioned that since my place was an Airbnb, maybe it'd be safer to just stay the night there. Sounded considerate. I didn't think twice. The intro had one of those weird vibes that you don't really notice until later. We met at a coffee shop that morning. We hit it off, normal stuff. Talked about travel and how my Airbnb got popular with hikers. He told me he did odd jobs, random landscaping gigs mostly, and some mystery courier work. I thought that was interesting. Kind of adventurous. I couldn't tell if he was embellishing, but I liked how he talked about things. No polish, just casual. A week later, we were at the Airbnb, supposedly for a casual evening. I had all these red flags tucked away in my brain, but I shoved them down because it felt easy. Setting up dinner, laughing about nothing, he kept asking if it was okay to stay over. I said sure, whatever. He stayed the night. First night was chill. Second night too. Then about a month in, I noticed shifts. He started talking about the listing like it was his. He brought up conversations with guests that I didn't even know happened. He asked how much I charged, verbatim. I thought he was weirdly interested in my side hustle, but didn't suspect anything. I figured maybe he wanted to help me improve. Over the next couple of months, I'd see him show up unexpectedly. Sometimes around midnight, sometimes midday. I'd ask what he was doing, and he'd say, cleaning or checking on things. But he never carried cleaning supplies. I once found his truck parked in the driveway late at night, engine buzzing. He left before I got downstairs. One morning, I noticed a completely different guest name on the booking app for that night, someone I definitely didn't let stay. I thought it was a glitch. I blamed the platform and moved on, but kept eyes open. Then things started disappearing. Small stuff. Fancy salt and pepper grinders. That expensive set of sheets I only had 2 pairs of. A nice coffee grinder. I exchanged messages with confirmed guests who stayed, and they all said the place was bare bones, but that they had a perfectly fine time. No luxury extras, but no mention of coffee gear missing. I texted Gary about it once. Half joking, I said, someone must have had a midnight feast and taken my stuff. He laughed and said that people who stayed took stuff all the time, and that I should consider it part of costs. No apology, no sympathy. That should have been my sign. Few nights later, I saw a car I didn't recognize in the drive by the front porch camera. Headlights off, driver door open, car idling, then footsteps. And at 2 a.m. someone came to the door, unlocked it, went inside. Camera stops for a few minutes. Then it starts again and the car pulls out. I called the platform support and asked about unauthorized check-ins. They told me it happens sometimes. Said I should change my lock code after each guest. I sighed and did it. But that didn't fix things. One afternoon, I went through a listing analytics summary. 1 week in February showed 4 different check-ins. Listings were booked for 2 recurring nights, but guests wrote they only stayed 1. No big deal maybe. But then I found 2 tiny bookings from Sunday to Monday where I hadn't even set availability. I thought it was me messing up at first. I logged into the calendar and it showed it was reserved. I clicked on arrival time and saw a car model that matched Gary's descriptions. That night, he was there again. I realized it when I smelled cigarette smoke on the pillowcases. I never let people smoke. He knew that. I cornered him, of course. I didn't say it like that. More like I asked if any guest had smoked. He said no, that the smoke was from outside when someone opened the window. Weird excuse, but I'd stopped getting surprises. That night, I poured through the camera footage. Each time he came, he'd drive up in his black truck wearing all black, then quietly swipe the keypad at night. He'd go inside, stay maybe 20 minutes, leave. Sometimes he carried something bulky, bags or boxers. The worst part was noticing he started renting it himself, with a fake name. He posted ads with dates I marked as unavailable. Guests would arrive, use it, leave. I had no clue, they left. With my pillows and coffee grinder. My place was becoming his side hustle and I was covering the losses by the time I confronted him. I was pacing kitchen floors at 2 a.m., heart slamming, thinking of what to say. But when I said it, he didn't argue. He smirked and shrugged. Said he needed the money and that I would never notice before. I didn't say much after that. I changed all his locks, told him he couldn't come by anymore. He asked if we were still dating. I said I needed a break. He just left. Didn't yell. Didn't say sorry either. For the next few weeks, I spent evenings locking parts of the house, hiding a key in random spots, and charging extra for sheets. I restructured the listing, invested in better cameras. I replaced all the stolen gear, and updated my security policy. Gary's still out there. After I changed the locks, he tried texting me about key codes or dropping off things, but I didn't respond. Part of me wants to see what he'd try next, but part of me knows I'd only end up with more mess. I still sleep with the door locked on that guest room. I still scan the cameras for movement after midnight, even on nights I'm not home, and every time I walk past that room, I think about how easy it was for someone you trusted to turn your own space into profit, while you had no clue. And that's it. No big moral, no dramatic finish. Just a place that got taken from me, one unlocked, door at a time. So, here's how it started. I was scrolling through Tinder late one Friday night, probably bored out of my mind after a long week at this dead-end job. I wasn't even really trying to meet anyone, just killing time, swiping through profiles, like they were endless faces in a crowd. Then I saw Shelley's profile. There was something kind of different about her, not the usual filtered selfies or posed photos. She had this relaxed vibe, like she wasn't trying too hard. Her smile was goofy in a real way, not the perfect model look. Her bio was short but weirdly honest. Something about hating small talk and actually wanting to connect. That stuck with me because I'm pretty over the typical fake conversations on dating apps. So I swiped right. Right away, she was all in. Her messages didn't feel like the usual, "Hey, what's up?" stuff. She actually asked questions about my week, sent voice notes of herself humming songs, and shared links to some weird old movies. She said I should check out. It was refreshing. She didn't seem like she was playing games or just passing time. We planned to meet up the next weekend at this little bar downtown that I like. It's nothing fancy, just some neon signs, cheap, tacos, and an old arcade machine in the corner. Perfect for a chill first date. When she showed up, she looked exactly like her pictures. Messy hair, no makeup, that goofy smile in person. She was warm, easy to talk to, and surprisingly funny. We played some arcade games, had a couple of tacos, and just hung out. But here's where things started to get weird. Right from the start, Shelley had 2 phones with her. She handed me one when I needed to look up directions or something, but the other one she always kept close, almost glued to her hand. It was this newer, shinier phone, and she never let it out of her sight. When I asked about it, she said it was just work stuff and laughed it off. Every time we went out after that, it was the same deal. She was always on that second phone, texting or scrolling, sometimes even in the middle of our conversations. It was like she couldn't put it down, and it didn't matter what I was saying or doing. I tried not to make a big deal out of it because, honestly, everyone has their phone habits, right? But it felt off. Then came the little things like the fact that she never let me take pictures of her. Every time I pulled out my phone, she'd get weird about it, asking me not to use flash, or just deleting the photo right after. At first I thought maybe she was just shy or super private. I didn't push, but the phones kept nagging at me. One night, I was at her place after we'd been dating for a few weeks. She fell asleep next to me, both phones on the nightstand. The second phone kept buzzing, constant notifications lighting up the screen. But she didn't wake up, just groaned and pushed it away. That's when I sneaked a peek at it. The screen was open to Tinder. And not just any Tinder, her profile was logged in, showing a bunch of matches I'd never seen. I froze for a minute. Why was she logged in on Tinder when we were supposed to be exclusive? I started paying attention to her stories. One time, I found a strange app open on that phone. She called it podcast work, but it looked like some kind of private chat platform with multiple conversations going on. Then, one night, while she was in the bathroom, I glanced at her purse. The second phone was there, locked but buzzing nonstop. Eventually, I tried to confront her about it. I asked if she was seeing other people. She just smiled and said no, that I was the only one she cared about. But the phone said otherwise. Then, the night everything fell apart, around 6 weeks after we started hanging out, someone came knocking on my door at 2 a.m. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the tiny window on the door and saw this guy standing outside. He looked pissed, wearing a worn leather jacket, and he was holding his phone up against the glass with a Tinder profile open. I opened the door, and he shoved his way inside without waiting. He was yelling about lies and betrayal, accusing Shelley of being a fraud. I told him I didn't know what he was talking about, that Shelley stayed over sometimes, but I didn't know much else. Then he showed me her phone. This time, it was her main phone, the one she'd been hiding. It was loaded with messages from other guys, conversations filled with photos, plans, promises she never mentioned to me. There was even a group chat with a bunch of people talking about trips, dinners, and dates, all of them under the radar. And the biggest shock, there was a wedding ring emoji next to her name in one of the chats. Married. The guy left almost as quickly as he came, but I was left standing there, heart racing, holding her phone. I called the cops and told them everything, but it felt like no one really cared after that night. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how many lives she was juggling, how many guys were caught up in this mess. I set up a cheap security camera in my apartment just to watch for late-night phone use. And sure enough, the screen lit up at odd hours, her fingers typing away. Eventually, Shelley stopped answering my messages. She sent one text asking if the cops came to my place. I said yeah, and that I didn't feel safe anymore. She replied she never meant to hurt me, then vanished. 3 weeks later, a package showed up at my door with no return address. Inside were Polaroids pictures of me sleeping in my bed, taken that night when the guy showed up. There was a note with just 3 words. You're next. I threw everything away, changed my locks, and moved out. I deleted every trace of her online and blocked all the profiles I could find now. I still get those nights where I wonder who else she's fooling, whose lives she's tangled in, and who might be waiting to show up at their door. That's the story. No dramatic endings, no big lessons. Just a messed up reality, where someone you trust can be living so many different lives. And you're left trying to figure out which one was even real.